Alright, so we're looking at the different bikes here. We've got three KTMs, big bores. This is actually an 89 KTM 500 MX, made to look like a 91 KTM. Stock engine. It does have a 550 lowboy pipe on it. Stock engine, from what I know. I don't even know if it's still on the original bore. It might be. The main thing about this bike is, out of all the bikes I've ridden, this thing is probably the fastest and does everything right. It revs, it's got great bottom end power, it spins incredibly fast, so it reaches peak RPM almost instantly. If you feather the clutch, it's literally like being shot out of a rocket. Absolutely incredible machine. Now, the next bike we have, let's go to the 440, which was, I think, one of the iterations or replacements of the 500. At least KTM thought that people didn't want the sheer brute power of the 500, the rocket ship acceleration, and that the 440 would be a better type of woods bike. And there was even a 440 SX in 1994. But this is a 95, great bike. It's got the updated chassis, Marzocchi forks, Öhlins rear. I'll get a shot of that. And there's the Öhlins rear. Beautiful bike. I mean, beautiful chassis, a lot more slimmer feel. A little bit harder. You sit on the bike instead of sort of in the bike. But this engine is very soft off the bottom, although in 95 they did work hard to bring more bottom end in, a little bit, by switching to a smaller carb. But the bike still does not have anywhere near what the 500 has. It's a 440, a little bit smaller bore. The 500 is just an unbelievable machine. 440 tries to do what the 500 does at higher RPM, but even when it's in its power band, it doesn't have what the 500 has. So it's a little bit of a confused machine. I haven't gone into the engine to see if there's anything that could be adjusted here, but the 500 just does everything right. The other bike, it looks like a 500. It's supposed to has the 500 plates on it, but it's actually a 550 engine, and this was original bike that I had, a 94 550 engine. It's been ported. It's got also a rad valve ported. It's got a 550 pipe on it, stock, and it's got porting in the engine itself. This bike I haven't ridden in a while. I had a wreck on it, but this bike is an immense machine. It continues to make power from the bottom end up, and this thing probably has the most sheer horsepower of all three. I would say it's probably over 65 horse, and I'm just getting it going again so I can compare it, but it is immensely powerful. So here they all are, KTM's iterations of the big bores. Obviously they're beautiful machines, each one of them. I was a little disappointed with the 440. I thought it would impress me more. I'd ridden one before, but I think the reason was I hadn't ridden a full-on 500. This actually is the 89 model 500, which was the first year of the 65 horsepower, the first year of the longer stroke, and it's just incredible. I mean, it literally does everything right. And this bad boy, I think, is also going to be, as I remember, a pretty shocking bike to ride with a lot of power, a lot of bottom end. And the 440, beautiful, really just a top end screamer, but even when it's screaming a top end, it just doesn't do what the 500 does. And but it's giving up some cc's. So that's the summary. But in all, I'm glad to own all three, and they're beautiful bikes. I mean, they just all have unique characteristics, and by no stretch of the imagination are these bikes that are underpowered. I mean, the 440 is going to blast pretty much anything out there, and that's probably the least powered of all of these. It'll scare the hell out of you, but we're talking about some seriously overpowered motorcycles. There's no stock motorcycle dirt bike today that even comes close to 65 horsepower. The KTM 500 was at 65 horsepower stock. The KTM 550 was at 62 horsepower stock. I think that iteration, although I've not dynoed it with the porting and everything, probably has got to be over 65 or more horsepower. It just really is an immense bike. So this is a very overpowered class. So even though the 440 doesn't have what the others have, it's got a lot more than most. And it's also a pretty cool bike, I think, to ride in the woods because it's soft off the bottom. It can do things that you need that are more of a finesse nature. And when you need to really open it up, it's going to go. So that was kind of where KTM was going. But it's a little bit of a bike that you have to get used to riding to really appreciate it. But a beautiful, 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 beautiful version of the 440. And just look at this 550 with the 500 plates. I mean, this is the year of the mint and pepper KTMs. Just a beautiful bike. I mean, just gorgeous. You know, the colors, everything was just dead on, I think, and really pretty. And then look at this, the 91 bike. I mean, another gorgeous bike. Incredible. We've got, for the people that are into nostalgia, we got the K-style sticker there on the front fender. Just gorgeous bike. Gorgeous bike. If you ever get to ride one of these, hold tight, and if it's running well, you'll really miss the nostalgia of these things, because this was back when, you know, horsepower was king. And you're talking two-stroke horsepower, light, fast, unbelievable acceleration. And, you know, one of the things about these bikes is you've got to get the widest back tire possible. Look at this back tire. This is a Michelin S12 140, and it's a super wide tire. I don't know if you can see this. Here's my hand. This thing is just massive. A massive, massive tire. Now, this guy has a little narrower tire, and I don't know if that's affecting traction. But unbelievable. The other thing that is interesting, too, is that all of these motors share the same cases. So if I ever wanted to, I could build a 500 and put it in the 95 chassis, which would be pretty fun, because there is the mystique about the 95 KTM 500 that was made only in Europe. But, you know, as this chassis is so good, I still really like the soft feel of this chassis for play riding. This is a very moto, almost supercross feeling chassis. It's hard, it's tight, it cuts. But for play riding and things that I do, these chassis are great. But they're just all incredible bikes, and I'm glad to own them. I wish they still made them. I don't think you can top this motor. I really don't. This is an amazing motor. Amazing. And so is the 550. So that's my KTM collection for today.